This is the CrownTalk podcast with Crown Riri. Hey out there to all my Crown ones. Thank you so much for pressing play. I definitely do appreciate it. If you can like, share, or subscribe to my YouTube channel, iTunes, and or Spotify, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much. Also, if you have a Crown Talk mini moment that you would like to share or you would like for me to share with you, you can send your Crown Talk mini moments to my email, which is crown.riri.becca@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you all for your support. I definitely do appreciate it. Don't forget your crown, and don't forget your crown. Hi, my name is Rebecca, aka Crown Riri, and this is Crown Talk podcast, not mini moment, Crown Talk podcast. And I have the wonderful Miss Lori Tharp here. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. How are you?
I am very well, very well.
That's good. I'm super excited that you're here. I told my friends I am having an author on my podcast. Yes. So thank you so much for being here. Now, I Googled you, but so my introduction for you, and you can just let me know if I need to add on anything else. So I said that you are the host of the My American Melting Pot, the Associate Professor of Journalism at Temple University, and also the author of Hair Story, Untangling the Roots of Black Hair in America. Is that good?
That is me. That is me. I am a person who wears many hats.
Yes, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out, it was I have a small story to share about hair, which is like really like everything. I believe like everything like lines up in its own space. And I recently, in January, I was like, I'm going to wear my own natural hair more because lately I've been wearing like under wigs or whatever. I love my wigs, but I was just like, I need to let my hair breathe. So when I went to a hair cutter to get my hair trimmed, the lady was talking to me and she was like, well, you know, people take care of their wigs, but not their natural hair. And I was like, you're right, okay. She was like, you have to let your hair breathe. So I've been going on this journey of saying, okay, I'm not going to put my wig on today. I'm going to do something with my own natural hair. But sometimes like such a struggle to do that sometimes. So reading your book or listening to your book, I was just like, your book informed me of stuff about my own hair that I didn't even like know the history of. So what made you write the book?
You know, it's so funny, Rebecca. I wrote the book for exactly that reason, because Black people in particular, and I co-wrote the book with a friend, Ayana Bird, who's also a journalist, but we realized that Black people, we have this like complicated relationship with our hair because we live in this kind of white-centric society. You know, we kind of feel like we have to do something to our hair before we can go out in public.
Yeah.
And the language around our hair, you know, we'll say, go fix your hair as if it was broken. I mean, there's just all of this language and culture and ideology around our hair that makes it more than just, you know, let's say what kind of white people think about their hair. Like, I gotta go wash it, maybe get it cut. And so we realized that there was more to our hair than just like beauty. It was more than the shampoo commercials you saw on TV. And also because white people seem to always be confused by our hair, intimidated by our hair, or trying to control how we wore our hair.
Right.
We realized, what is it about Black hair that causes all this commotion? And when we started the research, we didn't have a clue. We just knew there must be a story. And so we set out to discover what that story was. And I actually started doing the research before my co-author and I met. It was my master's thesis in graduate school that those questions were going through my mind. And I wrote my master's thesis kind of on the history of our hair, the economics and the politics of Black hair in the United States. And my co-author had done a similar project in undergraduate, as an undergraduate, but she looked more at the social kind of the impact that Black women had in American society when the beauty standards did not take into consideration that Black women's hair didn't conform to white beauty standards, and how that affected their self-esteem, their sense of identity, their sense of, being beautiful or not. And so we combined our interest and said, let's go whole hog on this and figure out why our hair matters so much, and why it matters culturally, why it matters politically, why it matters economically, how it's impacted the United States popular culture. And we wanted to put it all in one place, because there's like folklore, there's an article here, an article there, but it wasn't all in one spot. And we figured, things don't become official until there's a book. And nobody had taken the time to do this. And it was funny, because when we got an agent, our agent said to us, you're not the first people to think about writing a book about Black hair. It's just that nobody's ever done it. They think about the idea, they start, but nobody's finished. So if you can just finish it, like, we know it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so we really thought the book would be really helpful for Black people to feel empowered and proud of their legacy with their hair. And we wanted non-Black people to read it and understand why, if a Black woman is wearing a certain hairstyle, one, don't put your fingers in it. Two, don't assume that because she's wearing an afro, she's a militant. Don't assume that if she's wearing dreadlocks that she's selling drugs or is a Rastafarian. All of these things that we think, because really at the end of the day, education is so empowering. Whether it's the Black person or the non-Black person, if we were all educated the same, if we all had the same knowledge, we could avoid so many of the, we keep seeing these children being sent home from school, children, men and women actually being fired from their jobs, or, that poor young man, that wrestler who got his dreadlocks hacked off. All of these, I believe so much of this, I mean, to a certain extent, you could just say, oh, it's racism or it's white supremacy or this. But for a lot of people, it's lack of knowledge. Like, people just don't understand, or they think that hairstyle means this. And they're just wrong. They're just wrong. Or they don't understand what it requires to care for Black hair. They think Black women are being extravagant, or that they spend too much money and time on their hair, because they don't understand it takes time and money to maintain our hair.
Yes, even with me, like, going through the whole, because normally what I do is I do like 6 months of my, like, letting my hair breathe, and then 6 months of it just being like, in protective style, however they put it. But last year I did like a whole year of like nothing. I didn't let my hair breathe at all. Shame on me. But this morning I was just like, I have to actually figure out what I want to do with my hair. It takes time. Like, I woke up like 7 this morning. I was like, okay, so what I'm not going to do is do this. Okay, so I have to, let me simplify it. So it's still complicated with your own hair.
It really is. And that idea of like, what am I going to do with my hair? If you're not Black, you might not ever have to ask yourself that question. Correct. You get up and you just, I mean, I know that some non-Black people do have, let's say, more complicated hair. Maybe it's curly or what have you. But with Black people, there's an extra layer in there of not just what am I going to do as in what style, but you have to think what style is going to keep it protected and not falling out because of this, depending where you live, the temperature, the dryness of the air, all of those things. Also, what am I going to wear? It might not be about how do I think I look the best, but if I have to go out into the regular world, the style I wear could get me fired. Could get me stared at to the point where I'm uncomfortable. Could get me, I mean, like, think about, and we do it with such a regularity that we don't stop and be like, oh, okay. But all of those things really have to go through. Like, if I just decide, like, I just want to put a scarf on my head because I don't want to deal, but will I go out and be treated like the slave or like the, you know what I mean? So that's all of this extra layer. So it does. It's not, but the part that we wrote about in Hair Story, which we wanted people to connect with, is that for Black people before Africans were, in contact with Europeans, the relationship they had with their hair was so reverential. Like Black people, like Africans in West Africa, their hairstyles really meant something to them.
Yes.
And they really like a person could look at somebody's hair and know what family they belong to. They could tell what status in society they had.
Yeah.
So, and you never, like everybody, men and women, always had a hairstyle, like a very elaborate, signifying style. And the only time you would not have a hairstyle, like that you wouldn't, would be like if you had gone crazy. Like if you didn't have a hairstyle, like if you hadn't tended to your hair,
something was wrong.
Something was wrong, like really, really wrong. And we had, you know, there were special people designated to do your hair. There were special furniture so that after somebody spent all this time and energy making these elaborate styles, you could sleep without putting your head down on the ground so that it wouldn't be ruined, or on the pillow, wherever, on the bed, so that it wouldn't be ruined. So like we have always, like we've known that it takes time to do our hair. We've protected our hairstyles, and we welcomed the opportunity to, you know, what I love, this idea that a lot of times women in, you know, pre-colonial Africa would do each other's hair or would use that time to connect with one another, which sounds familiar, right, to today. Because it did take time. It was a special time. It was a sacred time.
Yeah, my cousin, she does my hair, and that's like, I call her like my cousin. She's my she does my
play
hair.
cousin.
Also, well, she's my real cousin, but I call her like my therapist, because when I do sit there and she does my hair, like I just vent about everything, and I just feel better. Have a cute hairstyle, and like I'm just venting to her. So yeah, taking time.
That's the thing. Yeah, and so it's the idea that when you learn about this history, you then you can look at like, oh, instead of being like, oh, it takes so much time to do my hair, you can at least kind of connect that to what that meant ancestrally, and maybe figuring out how to bring that, like you said with your cousin, like bring it back to, well, since I have this time, maybe I'll use it to talk to my mom on the phone if you're doing your hair by yourself.
Yeah.
Or invite other friends over and have a hair party. Or I mean, it doesn't have to be elaborate, but meaning like let's go back to being appreciative that we have this amazing kind of work of art on top of our heads.
Yes. I love it.
And taking care of it is an honor, not a burden.
Right.
And, you know, and that's all why we wrote Hair Story, because again, the relationship that Black people had with their hair was kind of disconnected because we hadn't been given this information.
Yes, when I was listening to it at work, I was like, I can listen to audio and work, and I was like, I should be writing all this stuff down, because it just like, we learn so much about our bodies in school. We learn about our bones, you know, our teeth and all that stuff, but we're not educated to sit down and say, this is what you know about your hair. And now social media, you have YouTube, and now it's like whatever people tell you, that's what you go with, because you know, there wasn't no research behind it. It was just like, oh, okay, I have 4C hair. I have no idea what that is, but okay, I have it. Like, you don't even know who said what's 4C. So yeah. So the book, I was like, okay, there's a history with our hair that, you know, it's been on my head since I'm 34 years. And now I'm understanding, because, you know, I went through the hot comb phase. I went through having locks. I went through the perm and all that stuff. I went through all these things, you know, before it became popular at the time. So it's like a 360.
Yeah. I went through, when I was doing the research for the book, I was in when I first did the research for my graduate thesis, I remember literally putting my hand, like I had, up until that point, my hair had been relaxed. Like I didn't even know what my natural hair felt like, looked like, behaved like. I just had the assumption that my hair was unmanageable unless it was chemically straightened. Right. And I remember at that point, like sticking my hand up into my head and being like, what? This is such powerful stuff on the top of my head. Rather than like burning it into submission, let's play with it. So like within the span of like 2 months, I cut my hair. I wore a short style. I got it braided. You know, I got braided extensions. I mean, I literally went through like eight styles, because I was like, oh my God, my hair is so amazing.
Yeah, like, and then I do all these things.
Yeah, and then I finally cut it off, like cut all the perm off altogether, because I I almost felt an obligation to my hair to let it be free. I was like, I'm so sorry that I've like tortured you all these years. And you have been here just uncomplaining. So I was like, I will let you be free. And I did at the time, because I'm in my 40s, there was no language like the big chop or any of that stuff. It was just, I'm cutting my perm off. Right. Yeah. And, you know, which, I mean, I'm not saying I was brave. I just was ready to like come in contact. Like what did you said? Yeah. We learn about our bodies and all these things, but learning about your hair has to be an individual experience because everybody's hair is unique. But yeah, I was just like, after doing all this research, I wanted to see the real thing for myself. And sure enough, I was amazed at all the different things that my natural hair could do because, again, I had been raised, you know, I love my mother. She, you know, I think she's just a product of her environment, but she just was like, your hair is so, I don't remember her saying my hair was nappy or kinky or whatever. She used to tell me my hair was like lamb's wool and it was just so hard to manage. So that's what I believed about my hair.
Yeah, my mom, like you said, I don't think she was like being negative or anything. She was just like, okay, I have me and my sister, and she was like, the only way I can manage your hair is you guys get a perm. Because we grew up like in the South, in South Carolina. My grandmother used to get us the hot pressing comb. And then once we moved to Florida, she was like, so this is humidity. And that's not going to work. And y'all finna get a perm. And we were just like, okay. And then, you know, we never knew that it was a thing called being natural at the time. We were just like, this is what my mom can maintain for us. So, yeah.
Exactly. And you know what's really interesting is once we wrote Hair Story, a lot of young people at the time, because the book originally came out in 2001, but then we updated it in 2014 because of the natural hair movement. Right. But what was so interesting was that, you know, we had a lot of women in their 20s and 30s who read the book and found it so liberating. And the book doesn't advocate for anybody to go natural, but it's kind of like me. You're just so curious because this is information you've never read before. Yeah. But so what would happen is that we'd have these women in their 20s and 30s read the book, and then they would go and have to re-educate their mothers. Their mothers and grandmothers who would say, you're going natural? What is wrong with you? Oh, you're not going to get a job. You're not going to get a husband. Or what's crazy? And so what was so lovely was, you know, by the time the revised version came out in 2014, we had women say like, my mom and I are both natural now, you know. Yes. You know, and it's like this reverse education or this education up the generation instead of down the generation, because our mothers and our grandmothers and our aunties, they were such products of this world where it wasn't just like a choice. They were told that, like, I mean, they knew that they might not get a job. They would not get a husband. And it wasn't just from white people. Even Black people would not hire them if their hair wasn't straight, right? They're, you know, that they could get thrown, you know, depending what part of the country they lived in, you know, walking out of the house with braids in your hair or something that, oh, no.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it was, so they have a almost physical reaction to natural hair. Yeah. And the idea that they could be natural and be beautiful, that they could be natural and still have a job. Sometimes it's the older generations that have a harder time accepting that information.
Yeah, because when we said my mom, she's actually, I think my mom, my sister, and I were all natural, but it all took like different stages. I think I was first because I had locks, and then I got them cut, and I was just like, oh, this is what my hair looks like underneath. And then my sister was like, well, I'm going to go natural too. And then my mom caught along. And my mom has like really, really cute, like curly hair. And she was like, I don't know why I was getting perms. And we were like, we don't know either. And it's like, that's what, you know, you were told to do at the time. So yeah.
Right. Isn't that funny? I mean, the part of our research that was so startling for me was realizing that the way we feel about our hair is not coincidental. That slave owners, in their campaign to keep Black people enslaved, required a commitment to like enslaving our minds, not just our bodies. And so everybody knows that, you know, slaves were not allowed to read and write because, of course, if you could read, you'd be like, wait a minute, what?
Okay, I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah, exactly. And there's freedom up north, and wait, what? You know, them uneducated was a real way to keep them, you know, under the thumb.
Right.
But the other part of that, you know, that's why it, you know, the deeper you dive into our history, the more angry you get. But the other part of keeping the Africans enslaved mentally was to make them feel inferior. If you feel inferior, like that your whole being is inferior, then you don't rise up, because who rises up when they are inferior?
Right.
Or the only way you can feel good about yourself is by getting the master to say something good about you.
Right. Approval.
So, exactly. And so what part of this campaign of inferiority was to make the enslaved Africans feel that that everything about their Blackness was what made them inferior.
Right.
So your dark skin, your wide nose, your hair, they would tell them that their hair was more like wool, that it was more animalistic than human, and that they were so ugly, right? So when you feel ugly and subhuman, you don't think about escape. You don't think about dignity for yourself. And so that was really done on purpose. That was done on purpose. And so when you hear somebody say like, oh, your hair is like wool, it's like, oh, wait a minute. We are still using that language, because it was used until the point where mothers would say it to their children. The white man didn't even have to tell you anymore, because we absorbed it. We told ourselves, this is why we deserve this subhuman treatment, because we are subhuman.
Right.
And so that, when you think about that, and then you hear like the language that maybe your grandmother uses, you know, even this idea of like good and bad hair, separating Black people to think that somehow these people are better, they're smarter, they're more sophisticated. Because of the texture of their hair. I mean, when you think about that, that makes no sense.
It really does. Like, I'm thinking about like, because your hair is curly, you might be smarter than me.
Right.
Your hair.
Like, when you think like that's so rad, that'd be like saying like, if you have freckles, you a math genius. Like you're so good at math because you have freckles. Like if you say it, it's like that makes no sense. But it was so effective at separating people and making them think that, and then like so much time spent on like, well, how am I going to look like the white man? How can I do this? Not how can I get out of here? How can I, you know, get rid of these masters? How can I
focus on themselves?
Exactly. So when you find out that was, you know, like when we try to examine, like, why do I not like my hair? Why do I feel like my hair isn't as good as? It was a systematic brainwashing, and that brainwashing wasn't like fixed with the Emancipation Proclamation.
No.
we may have been free, but nobody was like, and Black people, come on, let's give you a group hug and make you feel like
no.
Everything we said was a lie. Let's just FYI, we were just insecure, and we tried to make you feel bad. Nobody
My bad.
Exactly. Nobody did that. So it's really incumbent upon ourselves to undo all that. And that's again what Hair Story is meant to do, is to give people the truth. First, like all that was a lie, and you need to understand the lie, and then you need to realize that, you know, everybody's hair is different. White hair is different for, you know, everybody who's white doesn't have the same hair. Everybody who's Black doesn't have the same hair. And your hair, while I feel like, again, Black hair is really awesome. It's this amazing texture that allows you to do so many different things with it. But your hair doesn't define you, you know, like you can have kinky hair and be a mathematician. You can have kinky hair and be Miss America, which we now know for sure. Right?
Check that box.
Right?
So even when I was reading the book, one of, I believe that we're all crowned, meaning that I believe that we are all valuable people, and it's not until, regardless of what we go through, it makes us more worthy of our crown. And one of the things that you were saying in the book, one of the things that was said was that people back in the day would have like their hair built up so that way they can hear from God, they were closer to God. And I was just like, I whenever I wear like a bun in my hair, I just feel like I could do anything. And it just kind of like connected with me. I was just like, oh, that's why I love wearing a bun. Like, okay, this is what we're gonna do today. Just so I got it. So yeah, I like that part. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. It's like such a connection once you actually like read why you may like a certain thing. So
that's what's, I love reading kind of social histories and cultural histories where you find out, oh, that's why I love that thing, or that's why I feel that way about that thing. And I really do. Once I read that a lot of West Africans believe because the hair is the closest thing to the heavens, that God will send you messages through your hair. Yeah. It is sacred, right? Mm-hmm. And that really like has never left me, that idea, right? And so it's just, when I say that, you're not defined by your hair, but that doesn't mean that you cannot revere your hair, right?
I was like, well, maybe when, people, it's possibility, like when I was at my little wig moment, I was like in myself, that I wasn't like paying attention to anybody else anyway. I was like, I'm cute today or whatever. But now it's like more simple of me saying, okay, this is me, this is who I am. And, like I said, anytime I wear a bun, I just like, I'm just closer to God. I can just hear his messages or however. So yeah, I was like, oh, that makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like your own little antenna.
Yeah. One thing I did want to talk about was you speak about Mary Clapperton, and I was just thankful for the information that you gave in the book, because I know like a lot of people always have that argument about her and the hot comb, and like, did she invent, did she not invent it? I was like, okay, we have facts here in this book, just in case, because the argument came up like a lot when I was growing up. She did this or she didn't do that. So I definitely appreciate you putting that information in there.
Oh, you mean Madam C.J. Walker?
I'm sorry, yes, Madam C.J. Walker.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
No. I was like, wait, but yeah, absolutely. That everybody attributes that she created the straightening comb, which she did not. Right. And what's really interesting about Madam C.J. Walker, people, think about her as, first of all, as a self-made millionaire. Absolutely.
Yes.
And really what she should be remembered for, or what her genius was in marketing.
Yes.
Okay. Because she didn't really invent anything. She was not a scientist. She was not an engineer. She did not create some new, the hot comb was a French man's invention. She kind of adapted it to Black hair, or the methodology, right? Mm-hmm. She was not a chemist. She did not come up with, something that hadn't pretty much already been used before or created before. But what she did was she gave Black women the permission to indulge in beauty treatments. And she gave Black women who were brown skinned, right? Not light skinned women who had already been elevated as the beautiful ones. Right. She gave brown skinned women the permission as well to think of themselves as beautiful.
Yes.
And that was revolutionary, because if you looked at the ad copy of all the other hair products at the time, they were selling things like hair products to Black people. And mind you, most of these were sold by white people.
Yes.
And they would say things like, your ugly, nappy, kinky hair is so horrible. We can help you not look like a little animal or a pickaninny. And they would have these like blackface Sambos and the before, and then the after would be, a white woman, basically.
Yeah.
What? So, I mean, first of all, if you would buy one of these products, the assumption was, well, I'm so ugly.
Yeah.
I better use this product.
But like you said, but they were being told that when they were in slavery. So it's like, I'm free, but I still feel like ugly, unfortunately.
Exactly. And so Madam C.J. Walker, I mean, what we now know as a very common sales pitch today, where you go, it worked for me, it can work for you. But she was a master at, like, she was the daughter of slaves. She was a washerwoman. She was a single mother. She had dry, patchy hair. Yeah. And then she didn't. So, because of the products she was using. Well, what better sales is that, to just be like, I was just in your shoes. I was like you. I am like you. So use my products and you can be like me.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a brilliant marketer. Like today, that's not new, but at the time, she was a breath of fresh air for so many women. But then what she did, which was so important, and again, it's like, don't get caught up in the straightening comb. That's the least thing that she did. What she did was gave Black women, at the turn of the century, the opportunity to indulge in beauty treatments, but more importantly, she gave them a source of income.
Yeah.
She gave them the opportunity to kind of a for us, by us. She would say, you can sell to your own kind and use that to make money, as opposed to washing white people's clothes, cleaning white people's homes, shining white people's shoes. You can have a decent living doing this and not have to, be subservient to somebody who's going to treat you like dirt. Right.
Yeah. Because I was, when I was listening to how she was helping other women have, jobs and selling it, and I automatically was like, well, this sounds like a Mary Kay, but then the book it referenced it over to Avon. I was like, yeah, that's the same thing. Like she was like, everybody on.
Yes. I mean, it was absolutely, I mean, some people call it a pyramid scheme and it sounds negative. And I mean, you can have pyramid schemes that are negative, obviously. Yeah. But the idea of having a company where you educate people to go sell your products, I mean, that's kind of sales of all types, right?
Yeah, I would think pyramid scheme, yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, there were people who did it in a very bad way, but she was not one of them. She was really giving people, and this is amazing that, her workers, like people were selling her products in the Caribbean. She was not even just in the United States. And when you think about, I mean, we so often hear stories about Black misery and, Black people being at the mercy of white people, up until yesterday. Yeah. And here's this Black woman, single mother, who is riding around in a Rolls Royce, living in a mansion, using money to fund like community centers and all these things, and giving Black women a way to make a decent living. Come on now.
That's not a pyramid.
She was just saying like, let me, and I mean, she was getting wealthy, but every time she made money, she was investing, giving scholarships, building community centers, building theaters. Yeah. She had fly parties too. Don't get me wrong. Like she knew how to have a party.
Of course.
But that also, when you think about it, she was showing people what was possible.
Right.
Then there's others that came up behind her. Even today, I look at Carol's daughter. Yeah. I look at Orient Handmaid. I look at Miss Jessie's. And these women are all looking at Madam C.J. Walker and saying, if she could do that in the 1900s, when there was no such thing as, banks giving loans to Black people. Right. Why can't I do that today?
Yeah, right. Very true. And like today, just looking at the way that everything transitions is like now we are turned back around to a lot of people accepting their natural hair. And now, I was thinking to myself, I remember when I used to get like motions to perm. And if that, I don't see how they will make money selling perm products versus selling natural hair care products. I feel like everything has to come back around to selling natural hair care stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. The industry today looks so different than it did just, 10, 15 years ago because of the natural hair movement. And anybody who's trying to make money off of perms today, they know they have to really expand if their majority product was perms, they're either going to have to find new markets or they're going to have to come up with new products, because it's not going to, the trend is definitely going down with Black women using relaxers anymore.
Yeah, because I was I think my coworker came up to me and she was like, I've been natural for 6 months. And I was like, I'm not judging, but only 6 months. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, I think you're the only person I know that even gotten a perm in the last year. Because I was just I don't know anybody else that, gets perms, which to me it's not, love you not. But
right.
I never really hear people be like, oh, I can't scratch my head. I'm getting a relaxer.
Right. It's been now that you mention it, it's been a long time since I've heard anybody even suggest that, oh, time for a touch up. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
but I guess, you know what, I bet older women, there's some women who I think still, you know, in the like 60, 70 who just haven't put it down yet. But, you know, recently they've been really, there've been some new news reports, which we wrote about in 2000. Like, we wrote about a long time ago about the potential that the chemicals in relaxers cause cancer.
Yeah.
And so hopefully anybody still putting relaxer in their hair will think twice. I mean, again, I've never been a person, again, having understood how significant hairstyling has been for African people for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how you style your hair. If you have a weave, if you got a wig, if you want pink hair today and red hair tomorrow, more power to you. But I don't want you doing something that's going to give you cancer. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want you to do something because you think you are ugly otherwise.
Yeah.
I want your choice to be based on good knowledge and your personal preference, and not on, again, something that's going to hurt you physically, or because you feel less than, or that you are, your natural hair is inferior, or is not beautiful just by virtue of the fact that it doesn't look like white people's hair.
Especially now, because we have social media, and like I could stay up all night on Pinterest looking at natural hair. I have to like be like, okay, I'm only giving myself an hour, and then. But even with that, it's like I know that my hair is not the same as their hair, but it's just like maybe I should try to see what happens. But like I said, I feel like listening to your book, a lot of times, like you said, we were basically like killing our scalp to get this straight hair. I was like listening to like Malcolm X was saying about how he burnt off like half his scalp, and just like, my hair straight. That's all that matters.
Yeah. And, you know, we've really come so far from those days when the majority of Black people felt that way. And that makes me feel like our book, but not just our book, but like our book and the other books that have come out, and documentary films that have come out, that the education, and I go back to education, that of course people wouldn't know this ahead of time. Like, I don't fault my mother because she put perm in my hair. I'm not like, my mother was so stupid. She had no idea. This information wasn't put out there. In fact, people were like, and this is marketing and advertisers who should have their, you know, wrists slapped, because, you know, the whole marketing campaign was like, you know, get your kid the little kitty, you know, and they can have shiny hair, and then you can have more time to do the things you love, or what have you. And, you know, you see people who are like early 30s, even late 20s with, you know, patchy heads because of chemicals and things like that. So I don't blame anybody of a certain age, but if you're anywhere under 30 at this point, and you don't have this, you know, you haven't kind of absorbed this information. And again, everybody has their choice. Now that I'm thinking about, my sister still gets her hair permed. I'm sitting here talking and talking. I was like, I don't know anybody who still perms their hair. My sister does. Yes, my sister does. And you know what? I wrote the book, so I don't know if she's actually read my book. We're very different.
I'll read it.
But she recommends it to everybody, but I don't know if she's actually read it. But the point is that, like, the information is out there now, so people make choices, and they have the information. They don't have to make choices in the dark anymore.
Right. Very, very true. Because like I said, even now, it's like your book, like I said, I know my body. I know everything about me, but it's like your hair does have a history where it's just like, I think the movie came out, Good Hair by Chris Rock. And like a whole, like a year of people like, okay, I understand it. And then like, after that, it kind of like faded away into the background, where after that, I think that's when, like, I think I had locks back then. And then when I went into the work field, I used to work at home, so I didn't really like see other people's hair.
Okay.
So then when I went into the work field, I had locks. I don't know why I felt so bold. I shaved one side, and then my mom was like, okay, that's cute, but what's going to happen when you need to grow this side back? And I was like, I don't know. So like a year later, I cut all my hair off. And going into the work field, everything was like about bundles. And I was just like, what are bundles? And then from there, I was like, oh, these are bundles. Like, you know, from there. So yeah, I have like a whole hair history, but just knowing more about my hair naturally has been like a journey for me. Yeah.
That's what's so funny is a lot of people will talk about their journeys, their hair journey. And I feel like journey was the word for 2019. Like everybody had a journey about something,
Yeah.
but it's really true that we as Black women and Black men, and that's what I also want to make sure that people realize, that this is not just a women's issue, but
Yes.
because Black men have been subjugated to the same kind of Black mind games, if you will, about their hair being, inferior, which, a lot of Black men, if their hair grows, long enough for a single curl to show, it's like, oh my God, my hair is too long, I have to shave it down.
Yeah.
And if you really interrogate that need to say, like, why do you have to shave it down?
Right.
Like, why? What would be so wrong? And it's like the texture, like they're not supposed to show their texture. Why? And so I think, again, with the natural hair movement for women being so powerful and so public, you see that a similar movement happening with Black men. I mean, I don't spend too much time watching the YouTube videos, but sometimes I fall down those rabbit holes and realize that there are YouTube videos for Black men too. They working with the spiral sponge and playing with texture and growing their afros out huge and locking their hair, because it's a revelation for them too. And that was what was so powerful. Again, I love having social media now, because when we did a tour for the book and people would like call into radio shows, or they would, tweet at us and things, we got so many men saying, I love my natural hair and I never knew it was like that, and all these things. So everybody has a journey. Like Black people have a journey, and it usually begins with something like, I never really thought about my hair. And then I might have had some type of epiphany or moment or conflict. And then I educated myself about my hair, and then I got to this place of loving my hair. And we're all kind of on that journey in some place, right? And the thing is, the journey never really ends, because our hair is an ever-evolving piece of art on top of our heads, right? Like, what are you going to do next? And, oh, I tried this new thing. And, I had no idea that, like you said, like you said, your mom, that she has this curly hair. She didn't even know. I mean, when do you learn something about yourself like that? It just, and your hair really changes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, when you was talking about, because when I was going through my transition, and like at work, they call me Beyonce because I'm always changing my hair. But it's like, if I came in there like with my natural hair, it'd be the conversation of, okay, so what are you getting next? And I was like, one day I was like, I'm not getting anything. I'm just going to wear my natural hair. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was just like, I need to wear my hair more. Okay, it was just like people were just expecting me not to wear my real natural hair out. And just like, I have hair to hair. So I really enjoyed the book, because it's like I said, I believe that we're all crowned, and your crown starts with your hair, and it's like you have to embrace that first above anything else, really.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, because I know, like, when I have my bad hair days, inside you feel like, oh my gosh, like, look at my hair, I have to go to work and whatever. But it's like, no, I don't have a bad hair. This is how my hair is supposed to be today.
I think, I do think this is what I try to do with my podcast, My American Melting Pot, is to really help people recognize that, our differences like between races, for example, and between cultures and ethnicities, like they're not so different, right? Or they're not things that we can't make a bridge to. And Black people we have, like we were saying, we have our hair journey, and we have our own history with our hair. But because we live in a multicultural society, like you said, the people at work will be like, what are you going to do next with your hair?
Yeah.
It's an easy way to start a conversation, right?
Yeah.
You people can't hide your hair, right? I mean, it's something out there. Like Ayanna Pressley, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, she's suffering with alopecia. So she had to kind of talk about her hair. And alopecia became, what was the conversation about? But think about how many people were how many conversations were started about alopecia, about Black women in their hair, because it's visible.
Yeah.
And so I always try to get, like, whether it's our hair or food or, a movie, things that people do on a regular basis and interact with others, where you can have these cultural conversations
Right.
That's what I want to do. And I think that's why, that's why I wrote Hair Story, because again, I want to empower Black people, but I also want to inform non-Black people so that we can have more meaningful conversations. We can have less microaggressions and antagonisms, misunderstandings. And that's what I'm like, the tagline for my podcast is conversations that meet at the intersection of race and real life. Because what is hair? It's like race and real life. It's everyday life. You got to get your hair done, got to do your hair. You got to go to work with your hair. Yeah. But it's got racial undertones. But we can have those conversations because it's like, oh, I like your hair. What'd you do? It can lead to more meaningful conversations, right?
Right.
And we don't have to be a politician. We don't have to be a politician. We don't have to like be marching in the streets. We can have a conversation about hair.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it.
And then you go off and you're a little bit more wise. You're a little bit more cultured. You're a little bit better able to connect with other people. I was even on a news show once where they were talking about braids in general. And if you stop and look at how many different cultures braids are significant. Now, we are claiming that Nigerians started like the first like vision and version of braid was actually in what is present day Nigeria, but we're not going to be like holding it as only ours. But like Europeans and Asians, like everybody has this significance of braids in different ways, in different contexts. But think how you can make connections that way, right? Think how you can have a conversation and understand people, because we all have hair. We all know what a braid is, right? And we can make connections that way. And that's my goal, whether I'm writing about hair, whether I'm writing about travel, whether I'm writing about food. It all comes back to trying to make bridges between people of different cultures and different communities in ways that's really familiar and relatable.
Yeah, and I think even with that being said about, the boy that they didn't want him to walk because he had locks, and like that should have been a whole conversation of, okay, but why? Okay, but why again? Like what? Like why? Like, I feel like it shouldn't be like, oh well. Like I understand the whole he's not gonna walk, wonderful, but like you said, there needs to be a conversation of saying, why do you guys feel so attacked when we're wearing locks? So when we're wearing our natural hair, why do you feel so offended? Like, what do you think's going to happen? Are you scared for your life? Like, cause to me, I was like the boy, the young man was in school the whole time with these locks, and all of a sudden you're saying, okay, well, you can't walk. Like, that's crazy to me, but it's like that deserves not just a dismissal of, okay, that, like have a conversation about it, try to understand why are you guys so scared? Like, what's the problem?
I just thought of a really good example. I think I might write about this on my blog. But you asked a really good question. What are you so scared of? Right? What do you think it means such that the boy cannot walk in his graduation with dreadlocks? And I'm thinking, we're so entrenched in this idea, and it always strikes me because I just never think of dreadlocks as anything but the most beautiful natural hairstyle. But white people, and not just white people, I shouldn't even say that, because there's a lot of Black people who are very conservative or who grew up in like maybe different parts of the country, but a lot of people look at dreadlocks and I think they see drug dealers or some sort of like really nefarious hairstyle.
Unfortunately.
But then I look at tattoos, right? Yeah. Once upon a time, if you saw somebody with a tattoo, you'd be like, turn around and go the other way, because it signified that this person was a felon, right? That they had just come out of prison.
Yes.
Now my like kid's first grade teacher has a tattoo. Okay. And I mean,
let me pull him out of school.
You're like, and I'm not, if I see somebody with a tattoo, like because tattoos have become so commonplace, I no longer am afraid of them. I no longer think, ooh, she got drunk one night and had a wild old time. I'm like, my 50-year-old friend was like, I turned 50, I got a tattoo. It's like, okay, good for you.
Wonderful.
Like the suburban moms are getting their tattoos because it has evolved, and I can now look at people. Like my son wanted to get a tattoo, and I wanted to say, no, because you won't get a job. But then I was like, wait a minute, everybody has tattoos now. This is what it means. So without doing any research or anything, just paying attention and talking to people who had tattoos. Right. I was able to make the realization that a tattoo can just be body art.
Yeah.
Now, why can't people do that with dreadlocks?
I don't know. Because even growing up, I was like a big Lauryn Hill fan. And when her album came out, I was like, I think it was like in middle school. And I remember asking my mom, I was like, I want to grow locks like Lauryn Hill. And she was like, you going to do what? And I was like, I want to grow locks like Lauryn Hill. And she was just like, well, if you don't like them, you have to cut them off and be bald. And I was like, oh, never mind. And that was like all I knew about them. But now, like, I had them. I miss them sometimes. I can look at my old pictures. It wasn't just like Bob Marley, which I love him to death. But it was just more, like you said, I think when people think about locks, they think about drug dealers, they think about drugs. And it's just like, it's 2020. Why? Like,
no, I know. It really is. But this is that's the kind of, I mean, it boggles the mind.
Yeah.
Because there are so many other cultural traditions that have just become mainstream, and people are like, okay, I mean, why not? Why not dreadlocks? Why not all of these other styles when again, we have become accepting of so many other things that were considered countercultural, dangerous, even like men and women dyeing their hair, right? Meaning like these crazy colors.
Yes.
It's like normal now.
Yeah. Even when I went to work, a girl, it was a white lady, but she had like purple hair. And I was like, I don't know why I'm so, because at the time I was thinking about like dyeing my hair like a grayish color. And I was like, I don't see why I'm so nervous about dyeing my hair a grayish color if her hair is like purple. I was like, why not? But I went a different way. But still, just like, why am I still worried about these things where it's like a whole rainbow walking around here? Whatever. And it's just like, So yeah.
Absolutely. So I mean, I think, when you have things like that, you do have to assume. It breaks my heart because I don't like to assume racism, but you just have to. You just have to, because there's no other explanation for why. Again, why a first grade teacher can have a tattoo, but a high school senior can't have dreadlocks and walk at his graduation, or have dreadlocks and wrestle. Like what really? There can't be any other reason until you get to racism, because we have been able as a society to be accepting of so many other things.
And people, like, white people wear dreadlocks, and I've never seen a YouTube video where someone was like, I had to cut my dreads to get a job, and it's just like, okay, well, this guy over here did. So it's just like, you unfortunately have to tie it into racism, which is, because we never get like a really pure answer where we can say, okay, well, he's not a drug dealer. So what's your other reason for now allowing him to walk with drugs? Right.
And I have to say though, and this is why I will always come back to education, because otherwise I would just feel like there's no purpose in life. We should all just crawl under our beds. But in 2014, the United States military issued a new standard, grooming standard, hair and beard standards for their enlisted soldiers. And their original policy said that women soldiers could not wear like twists, braids, and dreadlocks, and they could wear weaves, wigs, and straightened hair. And they gave it as some sort of like, you can't wear this, but you can wear a weave or wig, or have your hair straightened, as long as it's like below hitting the shoulder or something like that. And there was such an uproar because, first of all, not being able to wear twists makes no sense, because what the heck is wrong with a twist? Like, I think you could wear braids, but not twists, which made no sense, because you're like, a twist is a braid with one less strand of hair, right? It doesn't even, like, what do you are that you would have to ban them, right?
Oh my gosh.
And the second thing was, let's just say you're stationed in Afghanistan and you have to be ready to go defend your people at any given moment. Where are you gonna get a weave?
Right, I was gonna say it's more thoughtfulness to wear braids or a twist or something protective than to be like, oh wait, let me grab my wig.
Right.
I go on this battlefield. Like,
right. Exactly. So like the lack of knowledge about hair, black hair, was so apparent in this new policy. It was like, what are you basing this on? Because it's not efficient, it's not cost efficient, and it literally makes no sense based on where these women are going to be. Do you want them like running around trying to find a stylist to put their weave in? Or do you want them to have a style that can be in place, neat and under their helmet, and not require more than like a minor touch up, you know, every week or every other week? So what happened was such a protest, and my co-author, Ayanna Bird, and I, we actually wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. The Congressional Black Caucus also wrote an op-ed, and there was so much pushback that the military actually said, okay, we're going to go back, we're going to educate ourselves. And they did, and they came back and they reversed the policy. So that showed me that, I mean, when you can make the United States military, which is one of the biggest bureaucratic nightmares in the world, if you can make them say, oh, give us the information, oh, we have it, we've educated ourselves, we should change this. That to me shows that when people have education, they do the right thing. And what it also shows me is that all these people making these crazy rules about children not being able to come to school with some dreadlocks or some Afro puffs or whatever they've outlawed, it's because they're not educated. Now, they may be willfully uneducated. They may refuse, and then you call them ignorant, not uneducated, or stupid, because if you maintain your ignorance, that's stupid. But I'm not going to assume stupidity until I've sent you a copy of my book and you refuse to read it. Then there's a problem.
Then okay, you're dumb.
But until then, I'm going to think, these poor people, no one gave them the information, and they still are running under the assumption that this style means that this kid is a closeted drug dealer or some sort of revolutionary. And so, you know, we need to just send out Hair Story to the whole world and get them all on board, and just, you know, go from there. Because again, from the beginning, we've all been brainwashed, and there hasn't been a national therapy session to get us to the right place.
It's so true. Yeah, because like I said, I hit play and I was listening at work, and I was like, because sometimes like when I'm at work, I'm able to listen to audio, and if I have like ideas or something, I have like sticky notes, and I have like so many sticky notes about just like a book, and I was like, because then I ordered like the actual book, and I was like, I just need to read the whole book, because it was just like a lot of information I didn't really know about my own, like what's on my head, and it's just like wow. So I don't want to hold you, but I was laughing at some of these things that they were saying that you're not supposed to do with your hair. One of them was, if I can remember offhand, about not throwing your hair out the window, because if you do, like a bird would get it.
Yes. These are
that growing up.
Yes. These are our black hair superstitions. And it's so funny because we did like a survey of random people from different parts of the country, and everybody had their different superstitions that they learned from their mother, their grandmother, or just, you know, from folklore. But everybody had a version of that. Don't cut your hair outside, because if a bird gets it and puts it in their nest, you'll have headaches, or somebody could put a spell on you, because if they have a piece of your hair, that's all they need to like do some, I don't know, some what's the word they use? Some black magic or something. Magic, but all these things basically is you need to protect your hair again, because it is your essence. It goes back to that thing with God, like, it is your spiritual self. You don't want anyone else to have it.
Now, one of them I knew for sure wasn't true with me was don't let a pregnant person. Because my cousin, she has 6 kids, and every now and then she has been pregnant doing my hair, and I was like, well, that one didn't get to me, thank God.
That was definitely in there.
Something about that too, like, you know.
And I think there's one like, don't do your hair on a full moon or something. There's a whole bunch.
On a full moon. And I think one of them was like, instead of saying thank you, say more hair. So I think it's like really
yes. I love that. And that's what we really wanted to document, that our hair has its own culture around it. It's not just hair.
It's not, like I said, I believe that we're all crowned, and the crown starts with your hair. So I was just like, this falls into, you know, me saying like, protect your crown, protect your hair, regardless of you having protective styles or not. You know, like me, I'm on this let your hair breathe journey. Just put the wigs away for a while, just let it breathe. Because even like me and my sister were going out this weekend. Well, we were trying to go out, but I felt like crap yesterday, and I was like, what am I going to do with my hair? And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, I always have a wig on when I go out, and now it's my natural hair. And she was like, oh yeah, me too. So we just sitting there thinking like, what are we going to do with our hair?
It's so funny how much you really have to do that thinking. My hair has been in locks for 5 years, and I just took them out a couple weeks ago. And it's so terrible because now I have to like add an extra layer of what am I going to do with my hair? I'm so used to just like going and, you know, and now I'm like, oh my gosh. And I took them out because my hair was thinning on the edges. And I thought, okay, I just need to let my hair, like you, not let it breathe, but let it rest because they were really long. Yeah. And so I thought, you know, I'm getting older. Maybe it just needs to rest a little bit. But now I cannot wait to put locks in again because I just am not equipped to think about my hair every day.
Yeah, because you were just getting up and be like, okay, this is my outfit I'm wearing. This is what I'm doing today. And it wasn't like, okay, what I'm doing my hair because you had locks.
Nope,
like,
exactly. That's why I always have locks because they're the easiest, most versatile style. And this, you know, getting up and be like, oh man, I gotta do my hair.
Today because I've been doing finger coils last week and the week before, and I was like, today we're doing a ponytail and some in the front because I cannot, you know, section in 4 and then try to put on a movie. Then you got to mix all this, you know, you still have like stuff you have to mix together to bring out your natural curl.
Right. It's a lot of work. That's why I, you know, when anybody says it's a lot of work, I'm saying, get locks, do locks because they're just, you know, they're there when you need them.
I miss mine. So I was like, oh, maybe I might go towards that again.
I think my husband will laugh at me so much because I'm like, no, I'm taking them out. I'm really going to just play with my natural hair. I'm going to do these different things. And I won't say it to him. Hopefully he won't listen to this podcast because I'm literally counting down the days when I can lock it again.
Put them back in.
Yep.
Yes. Was there anything else you wanted to share with us?
No, I mean, this has been such a great conversation. I could talk about hair always. Like I always tell people, I don't care what we're talking about. I can link it back to black hair. I mean, you could talk about ice cream and I would be like, ice cream. Yeah. And I'll be able to bring it back to black hair. But it's something that, you know, if you had told me 20 years ago when I was in graduate school that, you know, writing my thesis about black hair would be setting the course for my career for the rest of my life, I would have laughed at you. Aww. But to this day, I recently was interviewed by a journalist in Sweden, who was doing a story about black hair in America. Wow. I'm writing an article for a museum in Ohio that's doing an exhibition on black hair. Like this idea that our hair is so much more than just this random stuff growing out of our heads I get a reminder of that literally every day. And that's what keeps me continuing on to continue to do research, to continue to talk, to continue to write, because for every person who feels that this is an elevated art form, there's somebody else who's not allowing a child to walk into graduation because of their hairstyle. So I think that I'm so happy you're doing your podcast and having conversations because I just think the more people talk, the more educated they get, then we'll be in a better place.
Yeah, that's what I have with CrownTalk is, you know, through crown recognition and crown conversation, we recognize people's crowns. So yeah, I believe conversation is very, very important.
Yeah, and it's super powerful. You know, it seems simple, but you never know when, you know, people hear your voice, they hear a conversation, it makes them think a little bit differently. And then they go out into their world and maybe share that information with somebody else, or they operate their own lives a little bit different. So every little bit helps.
Yes. And before you go, I was asking my guests today have like a crown moment, which is like a great moment in your life or a life lesson that you learned. Because I don't believe in curses. I believe it's something doesn't happen your way. It's just like a life lesson per se. So do you have a crown moment you want to share with us?
Sure. Yes. Okay. I think like, I mean, and I'm hesitating because I have so many of these moments, but, so when I was, so I have 3 children. I have 2 boys that are 18 and 15 and they are delightful. And I went to a women's college. My mother was one of 11 girls. I have a sister and I have a brother, but he is much, much younger than me. So I grew up with my sister. So I always just assumed I would have a daughter. And my first child was a boy. My second child was a boy. And my husband always joked that he doesn't make girls. So I was like, ha ha ha. But then I was like, okay, I guess I'm never having a girl because I'm not having any more than 2 children. Right. And if I have 2 boys, that third one will probably be a boy too. So I'm not going to even play with that. But then we actually were living in New York City. We moved out of New York and moved to Philadelphia. I had a much more sane life. We had a house with a cute little yard.
Aww.
And I started to think, well, maybe we could have a third child. But then a lot of my friends in this neighborhood where we moved had adopted children. And I thought, well, if I definitely want a girl, why don't we adopt a child?
Oh.
And started and thought about that. And there were a lot of twists and turns and things that made we were very close to adopting a child and then didn't. And then, I mean, just a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But through a different series of circumstances, I realized that it wasn't the right time for us and it wasn't the right thing for us for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to, I read this book called The Wisdom to Know the Difference. And it was all about learning to accept, the things you had and be grateful for them. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was on a work trip, and I read that book, and I was looking at a picture of my family, and I was like, I have a perfect family.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 boys that are healthy and wonderful, and I don't need to wish for something else. Like if I wasn't meant to have a daughter, like that's fine. Like that is what God has planned for me.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. And I came back home and I told my husband, like, because I was the one that was like, yeah, we should really adopt a daughter. And he was kind of like, but okay, but I'm not sure. So he was like, thank you. Like, he's like, I'm glad that you on your own have realized that. And I made that, I said that. And then a week later, I realized that I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
It was a crazy, crazy thing because I say my daughter was a divine miracle.
Yeah.
Because at that point, really, it was like, I accept what this is for me. I accept this family for me. Mm-hmm. And of course I didn't know that I was pregnant with a girl. And at that point I was like, it doesn't matter, whatever. Yeah. And it was a girl. And so I feel like I had to go through an entire process of acceptance and not wanting and trying to force things. And when I came to acceptance, I got exactly what I wanted.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So that's a lesson that, cause I'm a real go-getter person. Like I'm like, if I want something, I'm like, go forward 100%. Don't leave no stones unturned. I will do what I have to do. Make it happen.
Yeah.
You can't do that with everything. Some things you really have to say, let go, let God, right? Like sometimes you just have to, you can't just say it.
Right.
You have to truly release it, surrender. And if it was meant to be, it will be meant to be. And that's what happened. Yeah.
Wonderful. I love it. Oh, I love hearing crown moments. That is wonderful. Yeah.
Well, thank you for asking. I love telling stories like that. So thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Yeah, I call them crown moments where we just sit back and reflect on a moment. Be like, that was my moment. Like you said, it takes, accepting something and saying, okay, this, because I have a problem with that. Like I have to have not control over everything, but I just have to have control over everything. So and it's like, okay, I cannot, like, there's nothing I can do in this situation. Like my hands are just off of it or whatever. But
right.
See what I can try to do, but it's a process.
I hear you. I know exactly what you mean. Mm-hmm.
Can you let my crown ones out there know where they can follow you and about your podcast?
Sure. So my podcast is called My American Melting Pot, and we have conversations that meet at the intersection of race and real life. So like I had mentioned before, we talk about anything from parenting to, I did a great episode about fried chicken and how fried chicken is a universal delicacy that people always associate it with Black people, but it's actually popular in South Korea. It's popular in Guatemala, and everybody thinks that they have the world's best fried chicken. So that's what we like to do on the Melting Pot, is have these conversations about everyday life, but how those things intersect with race and ethnicity. So this upcoming season, which will start on March 13th, we are bi-weekly. We come out every other Friday. Everything will be about family. So every theme will be around the issue of family in some way, shape, or form. And if you just go to my blog of the same name, myamericanmeltingpot.com, you have links to the podcast, and you also have all my social media handles. So I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm on Pinterest as well. Everything under My American Melting Pot. On Twitter, it's Ms. Melting Pot. But all the links are on the website. So that's the best way to find me and follow me. Yeah, and I actually started a diversity reading challenge this year. So if you come to the Facebook page or the Melting Pot blog, you can read about that and come read along with us.
Oh, wonderful. I might listen to that myself. Like I said, I listen to audiobooks at work, and I'd be like, I'm working, so ain't nobody else got a problem.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I think the audiobook was the best invention since sliced bread.
I really think it is. Sometimes I'll be at work, and depending on what it is, I'll be like, oh no, what happened? Oh my God. And my friend be like, my coworker be like, are you okay? Girl, this book is really, really good. I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, whoever invented that, it was for me.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for just sitting and conversating with me today. I've learned, like I said, your book is wonderful. I'm definitely going to put the link in your information so my crown ones out there can learn how to protect their crowns, basically. Excuse me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I enjoyed this conversation so much, too. It was a perfect Sunday conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Don't forget your crown, and don't forget your crown. This is the CrownTalk podcast with Crown Riri. Don't forget your crown, and don't forget your crown.